Okay, we started yesterday. Interesting, going through the Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, and Machlokes. How if you could attach all of them together, or just the Nevi'im, or separately. There are three Machlokes. You gave the order of the Nevi'im, and now we're going to give the order of the Ksuvim. So we're on Yud Daled Amid Beis, 2, 4, 6, about 9, 10 lines off in the bottom, 2 dots. Sidron Shel Ksuvim. Why do the Seder of Ksuvim? Rus, Sefer Tehillim, Eoiv, Mishlei, Koheles, Shir Hashirim, Bekinus, that's Eicha, Daniel, Megillas Esther, Ezra, V'Divrei Hayamim. That's the order wide of that's the order. And by and large, it's chronological. If you look at Rashi, fellas, right? Rashi says, Rus, Tehillim, Eoiv, Rus, Kodma, B'mei Shofet HaShoftim. Right? Rus was before. She was during the time of the Shoftim. And David Amaron, Tehillim David Amaron, was said by David. Who Kodem LeEoiv? He came before Eoiv. Kamadi Amar B'mei Malchus Shivahaya. We're going to have a big machlokes today, exactly who Eoiv was and exactly when he lived. There's an opinion he lived during the time of the kingdom of Shva, what you know as Sheba. So that was after David's time, right? That was B'mei Shlomo, right? Shloisha Sifrei Shlomo, and after you have Rus and Tehillim, and you have Eoiv, you have Mishlei, Koheles, and Shir Hashirim, which are three of Shlomo's Sfarim, right? Okay, Mishlei and Koheles, Rashi says Shneim Sifrei Chachma, Shir Hashirim, Nira Be'enai, Sha'amru Le'esik Nasai, that Shlomo said it when he at the time of when he's old. Kinus is Yirmiyahu Amaron Shahaya Acha Shlomo. He was after Shlomo. Daniel Acha Yirmiyahu B'mei Nebuchadnezzar B'Goyla. Getting a little history lesson, guys. The timeline. Esther Achra B'mei Achashverosh. Ezra Achra B'mei Daryavash Hasheni Shomar Acha Achashverosh. That was the son of Esther and Achashverosh, right? So we have this is the order. But basically, you get in chronological order of why the Kesuvim are written this way. You wouldn't think of Rus being first, right? We always put the Chamesh Megillas together, but in fact, they're not. Anyway. Ulamanda Amma. Now, this is based upon Lamandi Amma that Eoiv was Bimei Malchus Shva. Ulamandi Amma Eoiv Bimei Moshe Haya. According to Mandi Amma, that Eoiv was Bimei Moshe, Lekadmei LeEoiv Bereisha. Let's put Reisha first. Let's put Eoiv first before Rus. Says the Gemara, Aschule bePenusa loy mischalinan. We don't want to begin with we don't want to get with punishment. What's Eoiv? He was all about Yisurim, terrible life, what he had, terrible. So we're not going to believe it's something so negative. Says Gemara, Rus nami Penusa he, right? Rus also is Penusa. Rashi brings that Elimelech died. There was a Rav, Machla, and Kilya, and also Nishkan Gutazach. Says the Gemara, however, it's Penusa the Islay Achris, but it led to something very, very good. It led to the birth of Oived and then Yishai and David. So therefore, that was a very, very big positive thing. That was a positive thing. Now, the Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Lama Nikra Rus. Why was she called Rus? Sheyatsa mimenu David, right? That David descended from her. Sheyula Kadosh Baruch Hu, who sang to a Kadosh Baruch Hu b'shirus. Guys, that's the name Rus. Okay. Now, this we had this in Masechta Brachos also, and there is a very pashut way, pashut to speak about this. Her name was, why was she named Rus? Why was she named Rus? Because she writes. Now, there is a machlokes. Does a ger have to change their name or not? Does a ger have to change the name or not? Now we know ger, they do change the name. So is a daya that Rus did not change her name, and the reason is what the Gemara just said. Since her name was Shirois, that she went ahead and sang Shirois, that have a descendant Shirois, so we didn't change her name. That's what the Gemara in Brachos is barvarning according to the Zayar. The Zayar, however, says that no, she was to change the name, and her name was Gillis. Her name was Gillis. It's Zayar. If you're interested, it's Daf Tzadik Vav Amid Beis, right? Her name was Gillis. And her name was changed to Rus. So 606 thing, right? That's the gematria, right? But that the gematria 6 mitzvah enough. But again, she'll be aware that okay. Now, So you have now Umi Kosvan. Who wrote down all this svarim? Okay, Umi Kosvan. Okay, Rabbi Avi, we're 4 lines up on Yudal Amid Beis, and we're saying who wrote the Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim. We're going to get this. Who wrote it? Umi Kosvan, Moshe Kosav Sifroi. Moshe wrote the Torah. Parshas Bilam. Now, what's Parshas Bilam, guys? Next week's Parsha. What Parshas Balak? So what's the Vel's Kasha, guys? It's the Torah, right? It's part of the Torah. Okay, so Bez Hashem, we're gonna do a very, very nice piece, guys. You hear the kasha? Guys, you hear the kasha? In other words, if Parshas Bilam is part of the Torah proper, right? It's Balak. So if Moshe wrote his sefer, so why do you have to go ahead and say separately he wrote the right? Okay, so Bez Hashem, we're gonna go through the Gemara, and then I sent out something today, something very geschmack, and we're gonna go through it. We're gonna go through it together. Okay, so now. The Eiv, Moshe wrote Eiv. Yeshua, so Moshe wrote Eiv. Yeshua Kosev Sifroi wrote Sefer Yeshua. Ushmeine Psukim Shebetayra, and he wrote the last 8 Psukim of the Torah from Bayamas Moshe. Shmuel Kosev Sifroi. Shmuel wrote the Sefer Shmuel. The Shaftim, he wrote Sefer Shaftim. The Rus, and he wrote Rus. We spoke out of Bach, guys. Remember they asked the Shaila was sent to Shaila about the Yichus, whether she can marry into Kal Hashem, and the Shaila was sent to the Bezdin of Shmuel Ramasi, and his tshuva was Megillas Rus. That's Miyachas David. David Kosev Sefer Tehillim, Ayidei Asor Zakanim. David wrote Sefer Tehillim through 10 Zakanim. Ayidei Adam Rishon. Rashi brings the Pesuk, guys. Rashi brings the Pesukim that Adam wrote. Ayidei Malchi Tzedek, Ayidei Avraham. That's Perik Peites. Ayidei Moshe, that's Tzaddik. Ayidei Haman is Peiches. Ayidei Yedusin is Lamites. Ayidei Asaf, you may remember that, guys. Shem Isma, the Asaf, Pei Gimel, right? The Al Yidei Shloisha B'nei Kairach, right? Lametzeach, the Maskell B'nei Kairach, right? Also by Rosh Hashanah time. So these are the 10 people who David incorporated into help in Sefer Tehillim. Yirmiyah Kosab Sifroi b'Sefer Malachim. Yirmiyah wrote his Sefer. He wrote Sefer Malachim b'Kinos, and he wrote Eicha. Chizkiya v'Siyatoi Kosav Yemashk. That's Yeshaya. That's Yeshaya Mishlei, Shira Shirim, and Kahelis. So even though Shlomo, these are Shlomo's ideas, but they were written down by Chizkiya. Now Chizkiya really didn't bring it down; he was dead. If you look at Tosfos, guys, Chizkiya v'Siyatoi Kosu Yeshaya. If Chizkiya garim lehem la'asek b'Torah nikra hadav al shmai. Avul hu kosu shari meis kaidem Yeshaya. He died before Yeshaya. So it says over here, wrote Yeshaya. He really died before Yeshaya. Very tragic story. We have a Maisa where he didn't want to marry. Chizkiyahu didn't want to get married because he saw that he's going to have Menashe, and Yeshaya gave him his daughter, and Menashe killed Yeshaya. I mean, and Chizkiyahu died. A very, very tragic thing. Anyway, so these were written by Chizkiyahu. Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, Kosvu, Kuf Nun Daled Gimel. That's Yecheskel, Yishneim Asa, Daniel, Umegillas Esther. Okay. Ezra Kosav, Sifroi, V'yichish al Divrei Hayamim, Adlaya up until his time, and Messiah L'Rav, Damar Rav Yehuda, Damar Rav, Ola Ezra ben Bavel, Ad Shiyaches Atzmai, until remember he took up only the Yichus Teretz Yisrael, because everything was a bilbul in Bavel, and therefore what he took him up to Teretz Yisrael, and he was Miach himself. Uma Aske, who finished off the Ezra Sefer, Nechemi ben Chachalia. It was Nechemi ben Chachalia. Now the Gemara is going to start going over what each one. Amamar, we're going to go over each one. But before we get to that, I'd like to go ahead and go over a piece from the Chaimi Brisk. Okay, so I sent it out today. Does anyone not have it? Everyone have it on the phones? Yeah. I remember you, yeah. Rabbi Rotkin asked me what I was doing. He was in the spoil at this. I showed him how I do this. He said that. I said you go through it in the shir, go through it in the safe, and makes a tremendous difference. Guys, you with me? Okay, let me tell you where this is from. This is from the Agada Pesach of Brisk. The Agada Beis Levi. I saw it. I printed it and I stuck it in the sefer. So that's why I have it. Listen to this. Moshe Avdi Lashon Sifri. Will come Navi Oid be Yisrael K'Moshe? There'll never be another Navi in Yisrael like Moshe. Avol b'Bavloyim come, but among the Goyim, the Babylonians, there will be. Ve'ezeh Bilam ben Ba'ar. Bilam ben Ba'ar. Elisheyesh Hefesh. The Sifri continues. Elisheyesh Hefesh bein Nevuasei shel Moshe, the Nevuasei shel Bilam. So, on one hand, it says there'll be a Navi like Moshe, and in the same sentence, the contradiction says there's a difference between them. V'yesh la'ayin. How could it enter a person's mind, Loimar, Bilam hoya b'dargas nevuas shel Moshe, that Bilam was what on the same madrega as Moshe? The eich efshel lidmois bein nevuas shel Moshe nevuas shel Bilam. How can you go in and compare the two? Oit sarachin b'loshen asifri the lechayre devar seisrim. The words contradict each other. The maskil shebilam hoya k'Moshe. You said he's like Moshe, and then you said, well, there's a difference between the nevuas. V'nira levar al pi mashakasav Rambam says Chaim. We can go ahead and explain it based upon a Rambam. Behilchus Yisaydi HaTorah, Perek Tes Halach Aleph, V'zel L'Shainai. Dava Barar u'mufrish b'Torah shehi mitzvah imedus la'olam u'l'ol me'olame. The Torah does not change. Ein la le'shinai. There's no changing it, there's no detracting from it, there's no adding to it. Why? Because who gave it to us? Moshe. From that, the Torah onwards, no Navi can be Mechadish in the Torah. Lefikach im yamid ish v'yoymar she'Hashem sholchai l'hoisef mitzvah l'groya mitzvah hari zeh Navi sheka. He wants to deny and weaken the Nevuah of Moshe. It said that Moshe's was final. Moshe's Nevuah, there is nothing afterwards. That Zehu, nothing. And if a Navi comes along, no matter what he does, and proves, if he says he's there to add a mitzvah or detract, forget about it. Ad kan. That's the Lashon of the Rambam. Hayim Nevuah, Shenevuah shel Moshe Torah. The Nevuah of Moshe is Torah. In other words, why is Torah you can't add to it? Because Moshe gave it to us, and there'll never be another Navi like Moshe. Why can't you detract from it? Because Moshe is Torah. Why do we call the Torah? Torah is Moshe. Torah is Moshe. In other words, guys, you have to put together Moshe. The Seres Adibis Moshe brought down. Moshe brought down the Torah. We believe in Torah because we believe in Moshe, right? Vayiminu Hashem of Moshe Avda. We believe in Moshe is the Navi of Hashem. So, the Kaimel Oilam, Harimvur Shenivasas Sham Moshe Torah. The Kayemis Oilam. The Ein La Hoisiv Aleha, you can't add onto it, or the Groy Mimena. The Davazeh, Leimat Sanu Benevuas Shar Neviim. You don't find it any other Neviim. Unevuasam Nikras Divrei Kabbalah, Veloy Torah. Why do we call the words of Neviim? Divrei Kabbalah, but not Torah. Umishim Hachi Amru, the Ein La Niach Sefer Neviim Agabe Sefer Torah. You don't put, if you have a Sefer Torah and a Sefer Neviim, right, the scrolls, you don't put it on top. V'hine, Nevuas Avos, Afal Pi, Shenichvu B'Torah, the Nevuah of Avram, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, even though they're written in the Torah, Mikol Mokim B'Shas Amirasan, Lehoya Nevuas Torah. When they said it over, it didn't have the level of what? Of Torah. It did not. Rak Achakach, Keshem Moshev Kosav Es Nevuasam B'Torah, then Nasa Nevuasam Torah, B'Zeh, Shem Moshe Kosman B'Torah. Again, once they're written, before they gave the Nevuah, it wasn't part of the Torah. Once Moshe wrote the Torah, and there's no adding to it, even rice or a kites, then and only then does it become Torah. Then and only then it becomes Torah. Geschmack is anything. In other words, they said a Nevuah, but their Nevuah was only the Divrei Kabbalah. Divrei Kabbalah. But when Moshe wrote it in the Torah, and there's no adding onto the Torah, detracting, it elevated their Nevuah to be what? Torah. It elevated that it should be called Torah. Rak. Okay. Aval nevuasa shel Bilam haisa Torah miyad b'shas amirasa oid lifnei shenichru b'Torah. The nevuah of Bilam right away was part of the Torah. It didn't need Moshe to write it in to be part of the Torah. His was right away. Aval nevuasa shel Bilam haisa Torah miyad b'shas amirasa oid lifnei shenichru b'Torah. V'zeu mashe darshi b'sifri. That's what it says in the Sifri. Shebi Yisrael lekam navi k'Moshe shenuvasa tiyet Torah. There was no navi that his nevuah should be called Torah. Al v'avloyim come, but among the goyim there was. But who is that? V'zeu Bilam shenuvasam haisa Torah miyad be'es amirasa. As soon as he said it, it was Torah. That's the comparison between the two. When it says there'll never be among the Jews, there never was because no one was Torah, but among the goyim there was. Who was that? Bilam. V'rak le'inyan zeh hishva haseifa nevuas Bilam lenevuas Moshe. Only regarding this, that it's considered Torah, that it doesn't have to be written down to be called Torah. It doesn't have to be, Moshe didn't have to create it. Ain't a kavana lahashvais dargas nevuas Bilam ledargas nevuas Moshe. Chas v'shalom to say the level of nevuah of Bilam is equal to the level of nevuah of Moshe. V'zeu masha sayim b'sifri el sheyesh b'hefesh bein nevuasa. In other words, you're right. In the beginning, you're right. His Torah is called Torah. Still, nonetheless, the level of nevuah was not the same, and that's what the Sifri concludes. Now, I there's another page there I gave. It's the next page. You got it? Ubezeh yuvan, and with this, it can be understood. Mashomer Chazal, Moshe Kosev Sifroi uParshas Bilam. Agamara. Moshe wrote his sefer and Parshas Bilam. V'mifarshim miskasha bebir ma'imizeh. Dari Parshas Bilam he bechlal sefer shel Moshe. Ma'ishna sheskiru b'miyuchad. Why are you giving it different status? Ulam. Lefi devarav yuvan. You can understand it. Ki kol ha'Torah kula af divrei haneviyim shekadmu Moshe hakol nikroi sifroi. All the words in the Nevi'im that Moshe called nikra sifroi. Kiloi nase Torah. Right? All the words in the Nevi'im that came before Moshe, they're called his sefer. Kiloi nasu Torah ela al yidei zeh shemoshe kasvan. So everything before, guys, until Moshe wrote it, was Moshe's sefer. Milvad Parshas Bilam shehi hoise ba'atzma Torah gam lefnei shemoshe kasva. And that's why it says sifroi. Therefore, it says Moshe wrote his sefer, and what else did he write? And he wrote Parshas Bilam. He wrote Parshas Bilam. So Moshe Sifroi, what does Sifroi mean? Moshe means his sefer, the ones that he wrote and made other people Nevi'im. And then Parshas Bilam, which was sefer Torah without Moshe, that he wrote. I think this is such a geschmackel on the Shabbat. No? Beautiful. Beautiful. Mamish ein kamo. Beautiful on the Shabbat. And that's why I stuck it here.
I did say that they gave on the side note that Bilam was Kashkoch gave a lobby to the ground to their own complaint. We
Yeah, that's the Rashi, but it doesn't explain this difficult Gemara. This is a difficult Gemara. This is a difficult Gemara, and the Chazal, the Sifri is mode, right? It puts it together. Both parts, right? The first part, guys, here. The first part, they gave a Navi among the Goyim. What was the Navi among the Goyim? His Nevuah was Torah Moshe. But his Nevuah wasn't like Moshe. Of course his Nevuah was like Moshe. It was a low life. It was a maneuver and it was awful. But nonetheless, the Mishmak is anything.
See how powerful the Rabbi was.
Again, he had, but this is the bottom line is, this is okay. I was very, very, I was excited to share this with you. Hey, guys, you should do that. Anytime you come over something that you see that correlates, stick it in your Gemara. Stick it in the Daf. Your Daf Yomi Yidden. That's how you gain a little bit kias here and there. I write down stuff here and there, and that's how it builds up. Okay, Amamar means always going over Bryce. Amamar Yeshua Kosvi Sifroi Ushmeina Pesukim. He wrote his sefer and he wrote the last Pesukim of the Torah. Tanya commanded Amash Shmeina Pesukim Shabbat Torah. Yeshua Kosvi. This goes according to my opinion that the eight Pesukim from Vayamis Moshe he wrote. The Tani Vayamis Shal Moshe Ever Hashem. After Moshe he was died. Moshe was after Moshe because of Vayamis Shal Moshe Alad kan kosu Moshe mikan ve'ela kosu Yeshua. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, I guess so. V'im yilo Reb Nechemya. Amru lo Reb Shimon. Efshe Sefer Torah chaso es achas ukesiv l'koyach Sefer Torah zeh. In other words, you have to take this Sefer Torah. It has to be written by Moshe. It can't be written by anybody else. It has to be written by Moshe. El ad kan HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ad kan HaKadosh Baruch Hu oimer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Moshe koisef, and Moshe wrote. And take out the word oimer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu oimer, Moshe koisef. Good. Mikan ve'elach HaKadosh Baruch Hu oimer, Moshe koisef bidema. But in other words, the Torah was written, Hashem told Moshe what to write, and he wrote it in ink. The last 8 pesukim he wrote bidema, he wrote with his tears. So according to the Marsha, it's not, you're not lying, because again, he did write it, albeit not permanent. Not permanent. Now, Kaisa bidema, I mean, could he was crying to find out he's going to die, or I don't know. But I'll tell you a wonderful shot. This is where the Gra and the Besh agree. Guys, what is Demua? You know what Demua is? When you have Chulin and Truma mixed together, right? The Gra learns and the Besh learns, Dema does not mean tears. Dem means mixed. You ever see the game of Jumble? You have the letters? So the letters of the Torah were there. Moshe wrote the letters of the Torah, but Yeshua had to go figure how to put them together. So Taka Moshe wrote them, but he didn't wait to, so B'dema means B'demua. He wrote them what he was put down mixed, and Moshe went ahead and Yeshua went ahead and figured it out. So therefore, to be written by Moshe. That's both the Gra and the Besh say that. Okay. Kamosha Omer Halon says Vayomer Lehem Baruch. That was the sefer of Yirmiyahu Piv Yikra Elai. It's called Devarim Eila. So that Yirmiyahu told Baruch what to write. Finally, Kaisev, and I wrote it. Al Sefer B'Dayai. Kamanos Lahodam of Yeshua Bar Abba Rav Gidl Amarav. Shmeina Pesukim Shebetorah Yachid Kaira son. The 8 Pesukim of Torah Yachid could read them, right? Lema. Let's say it's Rabbi Yehuda, it was different because it was written by Yeshua. With like Reb Shimon, who says it was written by Moshe. If you Reb Shimon, since you changed it, you changed it. Now, why does it mean that Yachid can read it? So we have machlokes. Rashi says that you can't by that aliyah. You have to have one person get that aliyah, all 8 pesukim together. You don't break it up. No, the Ram says you don't need 10. You don't need a minion for it. Ram says you don't need because it's different than any pesukim of the Torah. You don't need a minion for it. Yeshua Kosev Sifrei V'Ksiv Vayamas Yeshua Binun Eved Hashem. So who completed it? The Yaskel Elazar completed it. V'Ksiv Elazar ben Aaron Mace. He also, it said in your Sefer Yeshua, he died. The Yaskel Pinchas finished it off. Again, we're going back over to Brisa, the different authors, and Shmuel Kosev Sifrei. Shmuel wrote a Sefer V'Ksiv U'Shmuel Mace. Right? Shmuel, it says Shmuel died. The Askei God HaChaysev and Asan Navi. It was completed by God. The Chaysev and Asan Navi. Those were Nevi'im alive at the time. David Kosev Sefer Tehillim Al Yidei Asar Zekanim. Now, Ulachoshev Nami Eson HaEzrachi. You don't have Eson counted, and he's one of the kapitluch of Tehillim is Eson HaEzrachi. Amarav Eson HaEzrachi Zeu Avram. That was Avram, and we already included and the Ksiv Hacha Eson HaEzrachi Ksiv Hasam Mei Ha'ir Mimizrach. Right, Tzedek. Mei Ha'ir Mizrach Tzedek. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he aroused Avram, right, to go ahead and travel to the east. So Kachashiv Moshe v'Kachashiv Haman. When Fredo Marakasha, Moshe and Haman were the same person, yet you considered both of them. So if that's the case, but you should consider Avram and Esam also. They're separately. Rav Haman and Moshe. Ksiv Hacha Haman, Ksiv Hasa b'Chol Besi Ne'eman. The targum of the Ne'eman is Mehiman, guys. The targum of Ne'eman is Mehiman. So Ne'eman who? Trey Himan have it. There were 2. Moshe. There were 2. In other words, this Haman that was here, Moshe is this Haman that was counted in the Gemara as one of the 10 was not Moshe. It was not Moshe.
Rabbi, why isn't this listed as one of his 10 names then?
What?
Haman.
I don't know. Maybe it's like a nickname shtickle. Maybe it's not a real name. I don't know. Moshe Kosev Sifra Yopashas Bilam, the Eiv. So now, guys, we're going to spend probably the rest of the time on Eiv. So Moshe wrote Eiv. According to this brisa, Moshe wrote Sefer Eiv. So you had to say Eiv obviously lived before Moshe or during Moshe's time. You know how many opinions you're going to see right now when Eiv lived? Multiple, right? Or whether did he live at all, right? You're going to have multiple, again. Did it really happen? It's fascinating. Anyway, it said Moshe wrote Sefer Eiv. So therefore, Messiah le Rav Levi bar Lachma, Dam Rav Levi bar Lachma, Eiv b'mei Moshe Haisa. Eiv was during the time of Moshe. He lived during Moshe's time. How do you know that? Ksiv hacha mi yitain ephoi b'yichtavon miloi. Oh, that my words be written down now. Ksiv hasam v'ma yivad ephoi. How will it be known? So the ephoi by Moshe, ephoi by, so the pay on words, ephoi. This is like an asmachta, guys. You know, we find an asmachta. Okay. The ema b'mei Yitzchak. Say that if ephoi is your asmachta, let's say it's a dakra on tesvav and aleph. We're doing the sugi of Eiv. I'd say about 12 lines up from the bottom. The ema b'mei Yitzchak. Let's say that Eiv lived during the time of Yitzchak. The siv me ephoi who had set Sayed. Who's the one who brought me the Sayed when Yaakov stole the brachas? The ema b'mei Yaakov dechsiv kain ephoi sois, right? Asu. The ema b'mei Yosef dechsiv ephoi hemroyim. So you have a bunch of ephois. So then why are you linked into saying that what it was Moshe? You have other ephois of earlier times. Lo sakadayt dechsiv mi yitain basefer v'yichaku. Okay. Oh, that they were written in a book. Moshe the ikri mechaykek. Moshe is considered the scribe. Dechsiv vayar reishis loy kisham chelkas mechaykek. Safan. Okay, so therefore, the Chakasaf in the hidden book. So therefore, according to this opinion, Rav Levi bar Lachma, guys, let's keep count. Number one, he was being Moshe. Number two, Rav Amar, Eiv b'mei Meraglim hoya. Eiv was in the time of the Meraglim. Eiv was in the time of the Meraglim, right? In the time of the Meraglim. Okay, so what's the nafkamina between Eiv being in the time of the Meraglim and the time of Moshe? L'chayr, it's the same time. Same time. Ksiv hacha ish hoya be'eretz utz. There was a person in Eretz Utz, and Eiv Shmai. His name was Eiv. Uksiv hasam, and by the parsha of Shlach Hayesh ba eitz, right? So now you think the play on words is Utz and eitz. Mi dami hacha Utz hasam eitz. Hachi kam Moshe Yisrael. This is what Moshe was telling Yisrael. Yeshnei la'isei adam sheshenoisei aruches ke'etz. Is the person in Eretz Yisrael still alive, whose years are what? Are long as a tree. Umogin al doirei ke'etz, and he'll protect his generation like an eitz. Okay, so it's not the eitz and the utz does it, but what? A person that's compared to eitz. Now, l'chayra, fellas, would you yes? So Raglan ben Moshe, the same thing, right? L'chayra did alive at the same time. So you look at Tosfos on the Amid base, the second Tosfos in the bottom. The Pirish Rabbeinu Chanan El Garis Kuloi Tanoi Vamaroi Moida the Eiv Yisrael Haya. There's a big shaila in the Gemara: was Eiv a Jew or a guy? So L'ri Nira the Loigasina Vamaroi. Not every Amora agrees that Moshe was a Jew. The Rava Al Karchach Sava Le'el the Lav Yisrael Hu. What? What did I say?
Moshe.
No, I'm Chas V'Shalom. Okay, Eiv. The Rava al Karchach Sava El the Lav Yisrael that Eiv is not Yisrael. The Kamal El Hachi al Moshe L'Meraglim Yeshnei La'isei Adam Sheshenoisav Ke'etz. In other words, you're going to Eretz Yisrael to go ahead and check them out. Is that person living in Eretz Yisrael? Right now, if he was in Eretz Yisrael and he wasn't around by Matan Torah and he wasn't in Mitzrayim, but he was in Eretz Canaan, what was he? A guy. So the Gemara is going to be Gairis Amaroi. All Amoraim agree that he was a Jew. You see, no. Rava, that opinion we just said, clearly what? He's not a Jew. And now you have a beautiful nafkamina between what? Whether he's B'mei Moshe or he was what? B'mei Meraglim. If he's B'mei Moshe, he was a Jew. If he's B'mei Meraglim, he was not a Jew.
Wasn't he Yahweh in front of Pharaoh?
Again, that's another reason that maybe he was alive during Mitzrayim. He's alive during Mitzrayim. That will also, but it doesn't say that here. It says it somewhere else. And I know you know it from. You know it from Chaim Shmulev's share, right? Good. Okay. So, but it doesn't say it here, Hesh. But Hesh is asking, L'chaira, he's one of the three Yisroi, Eiv, and Bilam, right? Okay, anyway. Says the Gemara, very geschmack. Okay, so that would be the nafkamina, fellas, between if he was b'mei Moshe or b'mei Meraglim.
When it says b'mei Meraglim, it's the same as Moshe. Moshe and Meraglim lived at the same time.
I just answered the Teretz Avi.
Oh,
I
sorry.
said b'mei Moshe means he was among the Jews with Moshe. B'mei Meraglim means he was in Eretz Yisrael at the time of Moshe, but he wasn't a Jew. That would be the nafkamina between the two. That Moshe is checking out Eretz Yisrael. Okay, now so we have Levi ben Lachma saying he was b'mei Moshe. We have Rabbi saying he's b'mei Meraglim, and now we have Ahumir Rabbanan kamei the Yosef Ahumir Rabbanan kamei the Shmuel bar Nachmeni v'Yosef v'Kamar Eiv le'Hoya v'le'Nivra Ela Mashal Hoya. Rashi Mashal Hoya Lilmoid Mimenu Tshuva Lemekadrim Al Midas Adin. Right? That, in other words, Eov is not held accountable in the side that he was in, and also that the tshuva, those people Mekadra al Midas Adin, the people Mekadra on a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that's why it's Amalei. So therefore, Shmuel bar Nachmeni said to these people, Alecha Makra, Ish Haya Be'eretzos, Eov Shmai. So in other words, obviously, it wasn't a mashal. The pasuk says there was a man in Eretz Utz, and his name was what? His name was Eiv. So he's saying, how can you possibly say that it never was? How can you possibly say that? So Shmuel Achmeni said, how can you say it never was? So Elamayata, now these Rabbanim retorted to, right, and said that when Nosson came to David, fellas, and he gave them mashal, he took Bathsheba, he was the only rich man, poor man. He had a few sheep. He took his only sheep. It says Ula Rush, and to the poor person, Ein Kol Ki Im Kivsa Achas, only had one sheep, meaning only had one wife. Kitana Asher Kona Vayechayecha, and it says Vatahi Loi Kibas Mi Have. Is that true? In other words, obviously it's a mashal, and it wasn't a bas. So Ish also is a mashal, and it wasn't an Ish. In other words, if your whole proof that it didn't existed is because you said the word Ish. So you have a proof over here. We know of a mashal where you said he had a bas. Like this Ella, why do you have to say mashal ba'alma? Just like by Nassin, he gave a mashal, achanami mashal ba'alma. Says the Gemara, in Cain, Shemoy v'shemim rulama. Why would you have to say what? The name of him and the name of the city. So obviously, this is very difficult. This opinion of the Chachamim to Shmuel bar Nachmeni is difficult. It's memorable, but it's difficult. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar Dami Travayu, Eiv came back from Golis. They came back from Golis Bavel. He came back with Ezra, who based Midrasha b'Tiferia Hoya, and he had a base Medrash in Tiferia. Right. Mesivei, you're telling me that what? He came back from the Goyla. Yemeshnei Sasav Shel Eiv, right? The days of the years of Eiv, Mishosh Shenichnas Yisrael Mitzrayim, Yad Shiyatzu, he's 210 years old. So L'chayra, he can't be what? From the Oilei Goyla, he can't be coming back. It says, it doesn't mean he lived at that time. It means he lived that length of time. In other words, in the Kasha, he lived from the time of Mitzrayim until then. So therefore, he can't be the Oilei Goyla. And the answer is no. You're not telling me that you're not telling me that what that was the timeline when he lived. It's telling me how long he lived. Mesive. Okay. Actually, it's Mesive. Okay. Shiva Nevi'im Nisnavu Lumas Olam. There were 7 Nevi'im who Nisnavu Lumas Olam. The Elohim. Bilam, the Aviv, but Bilam ben Ba'ar, so it says he was also 2. Eiv 3. Alipes Hatemani 4. That's Eiv's friend. Bildad Hasuchi, that's number 5, that's his friend. B'Tzeifa Hana Masi, another friend, that's 6. The Eliyahu ben Rachla Habuzi. Okay, so you see that lot. you see that you see that what that they weren't Olim Mitzrayim. You see that he was a guy. Guys, you see, there's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. It's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar. They said that what? That Eiv, that he was Olim Migoyla. Guys, if he's Olim Migoyla, that makes him a Jew. If he came back from the Golas Bavel, it makes him Jewish. Yeah. So now, on that shita of Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yochanan, Jewish, we're seeing that what? That he was from the Nevi'ah U'Masaylam. He can't list as from the Nevi'ah U'Masaylam. U'Taimech. Eliyahu ben Barachel Lav Misrael Havi. B'ha Ksiv Mishpachas Ram. He comes from the Mishpachas of Ram, which is Avraham. What do you have to say? Inve U'Masaylam. They foretold about U'Masaylam. Not that they were Goyim, but they foretold for the Goyim. Achnami Eiv Inve U'Masaylam, but he was Jewish. All Nevi'im foretold what's going to happen. Says even affecting the Masaylam. Says over there, the Ikan Nevu was Yisrael. Of a Hacha Ikan Nevu Yasol Masaylam. There, the Ikan Nevu was what was Masaylam. So that's the difference. That really he was a Jew, but he went ahead right and he was the Snaba solely for the Masaylam. Mesre, another kasha, guys. Another kasha on Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar, saying that Eiv was from the Olam Megayla. Chassid Haya b'Umas Olam, Eiv Shmai. Right, it says he's a chassid from the Umas Olam. His name was Eiv. Labola Olam Elakadei Lekabel Scharai. Hevi Hakadosh Baruch Hu love Yisurim. Hischel Machari from Megadef. He began to what to say not nice things. Kafalei Hakadosh Baruch Hu Scharai by Lamazeh. Kadei Latardim in Olam Abba. And since he complained, then he was Machari from Megadef. So Hakadosh Baruch Hu went ahead what. And he gave him double schar in this world, not to take schar in the next world. Mavur from this chazal that he was a guy, not like Rabbi Lazar, not like Rabbi Yochanan. Says in fact, it's machloikis tanoim whether he was a Jew or not. Now, guys, we're going to have a very long brisa, and at the end of the brisa, you're going to have to figure out exactly where the shita is that he's Jewish. Okay, in other words, clearly we have a raya that is a guy. Clearly, we have a raya that he was a guy. Where's the raya that is a Jew? We're going to find it. It's a machlokes tanoim, and we're going to find it somewhere what in this brisa. Machlokes tanoim, and we're going to find it what somewhere in this brisa. Okay, says the Gemara. The Tanya. Rabbi Lazar Omer, Eiv b'mei shefoid hashayftim. Eiv lived during the time of the shayftim. Shenemar, Hein atem kulchem chazisem, v'lo mezeh hevel tabalu. So this is. Eiv says to his friends, you see what happens to bad people. Why are you acting in this way? Right? You see, so Eze Dar Shakula Hevel, what's the Dar that was totally Hevel? Right? Rabbi Yeshua ben Karchaimer, so again, another opinion. The Shreif, Eiv b'mei Achashverosh Haya Shnemar. No more beautiful women than the daughters of Eiv. Ezel Darshan is Vakshu by Nashim Yafais, which was the door that they were looking for beautiful women. Aviyam is a Dar Shalach Hashverosh. David. Maybe during the time of David, we just had what? Right? The Isha Shanam is Tachsiv Vakshu Naira Yafa. Hasam B'chol Gvul Yisrael. Hacha B'chol Aretz. There, they were looking over Yisrael. That's by Avishag. Mashen Kamat by Achashverosh looked all over the world. But again, so far, we again, our mission here is to among the Ummah that he was Jewish. So far, we haven't found that. It was during the Malchus of Shva. You know what they do? The Queen of Sheba. Ken Zayin, it wouldn't happen. It says Malchus Shva. It doesn't say the Queen of Shva. It says the Kingdom of Shva. Anyway. Shnemar Batipol Shva Batikachem. They attacked and they took Eiv's camels. They took his cattle. So therefore, you see, it was during this time. During Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian. Shnemar Kazdim Samay Shloisha Rashim. They placed 3 heads and they took his camels. V'yesh Aimrim Eiv b'mei Yaakov Haya. Eiv was b'mei Yaakov. B'dina Bas Yaakov Nasa, and Eiv married. Talk about you ever see machlekes like this? It's crazy, right? He married Dina.
This is a Jew.
Right? No, then he's Ben Yaakov, then he wasn't Jewish. For Man Torah. He says, Hacha, Kidaber, Achas, Hanavolos Tidaberi. Right? After his wife told him, go curse Hashem, that's what he said. Kidaber, Achas, Hanavolos Tidaberi, you're telling me such a novelty thing? He said, Hasan, by Dina, Ki Navalo Asa B'Yisrael, after she was abused by Shem. The Kulei Tanai Svir Lahu, all these Tanaim hold, the Iyah of Yisrael have it. Iyah is Yisrael, Levarmi Yeshayim, except the ones that said it was Mei Yaakov. All this Tanaim held that he was right, he was being a Jew, except the one that says Mei Yaakov. And Rava pointed out also that you can't say just Amarayim, because if he was what, Mei Meraglim, and he was in Eretz Yisrael, he was not Jewish either. Disak that Mus Oilm Habe, Basa the Shach of Moshe, Mishaya Shchina Lav the Kechavim, because if you're telling me why he was in the Umas Oilam, after Moshe was Nifta, was any Nevuah left? But among the Goyim, Vamamar, Bikesh Moshe Shleitishu Shchina Alav the Kechavim. Moshe pleaded with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that the Shchina should not be shown on the Goyim. V'nasnulay, and he was given that request. Shenemar, V'nifulinu Ani V'amcha, and be different with us, I and your nation. So what do you see? You see that what? That he was a Jew. So guys, so you have Geshmak. It's Machlokes Tanoim. According to the Yeshayim, he was a guy. According to the other opinions, he was a Jew. You're asking Kashas on Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar, who says he was an Oila Goyla. They have a Tana they can go according to. This is the answer to the question, guys. Guys, you had a Kasha. How could you say that? What? That he's Oila Goyla? You see, he was from the Umas Oilam, he was a guy. Says the Gemara Machlokes Tanoim. Machlokes Tanoim. We just had a bunch of lists of Tanoim when he lived, but he lived during the period of the Shoftim, or where he lived during what? He lived by Achashverosh. All those opinions, he was Jewish, except one. If he lived in Yaakov Avinu, he wasn't Jewish. In Yaakov, he wasn't Jewish. Okay? And Memela, so therefore we have an opinion that Jewish, and therefore Rabbi Elazar, who said they were Oila, and Rabbi Yochanan, there's Oila Goyla, are very Geshmak. I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Dar Shal Yoiv, Shatuf B'Simahaya. Dar of Yoiv, they were full of znus, and then Yaakov says, and therefore he was punished because he didn't give them Musa. Shnemar, Hein Atem Kulchem Chazisem, V'Lama Zeh Hevel Ta'Beilon. So we had this pasuk before, and the lashon of Chazisem is going to be lashon of znus. So Ksiv, Shuvi Hashulamis, return, you perfect one. Shuvi V'Nechse Bach. May look at you, because as znus V'Nechse. So Chazisem V'Nechse is an allusion to znus. Ema ben Nevuah, Fegdamara, maybe Chazisem refers to Nevuah, it doesn't refer to znus. The Ksiv, Chazon Yeshayahu ben Amos. You see the lashon Chazon. Chazon is a lashon word of seeing. And came Lama Zehedel, Tach by Lamali. Why do you have to say the word Lamali? Just say, why did you act falsely? Don't say Lamali. From Rabbi Yochanan, my dechsiv, he be made shofet hashayftim, darsha shofet shall shayftim, oimaloi. Like a door that is the judges are judged. Shayf, the double lashon. It's the generation that the judges are judged. Rashi says, shayfet hashayftim, shaya shayftim atzmam ukukolam. The shayftim themselves were corrupt. And therefore, there was an excuse for the person that was being judged to give him teichacha. Take the kisem, the splinter out of your eye. Istakel uparish me'avera, meaning stay away from avera. Katana sheviyatra. Yachazelayma tul kaira mi bein einecha. Take the kaira from your eyes. The parish me'avera chamura sheviyatra. So the lashon of the Gemara, tul kisem mi bein einecha, is the shayfet saying, stay away from what? From a minor avera. And oimaloi, and the person that was being judged would go ahead and say, tul kaira bein einecha. You go ahead and take away your major avera from you.
Yeah.
Again, they were corrupt. It says they were corrupt. Amaloi kasbecha haya l'sagiyim. Your money was to l'sagiyim, right? Amaloi sabacha mahol b'mayim. What does that mean? I don't remember. Kaschum Ma'uravim Sagiyim is with like not fine, not refined. Amalei Nishbat, the person who is being judged would say to him, Savech Mahol B'Mayim, that your wine is mixed with water, and now you're selling it to people for ayinah. So this is an example. You say my money is mixed in with that. You would go ahead and mix your wine and sell it vat. So you sell it, illegally as wine. It's diluted. Anyone who says that the Queen of Sheba was a queen, right? Right, it's not true. Ain't it elatoya? My malka shva malchus shva means the malchus of Sheba. Okay, now the Gemara is going to go ahead and dash in Eoy. We're going to, and I go wait because it's one very long blot of Eoy. What? Yeah. Sorry, my. Peshi's been waiting the whole day to say that. Kiddush Lamana. What? He did it already?
He did what's a Shabbos.
Heard you did it last Sunday.